Thank you for this. We'll see how this goes. I wanted to start by checking in on you all. I'm curious. I invited you on Friday night and again on Saturday morning to experience these days and these people who have shared themselves with us. So I'm going to invite you again to raise your hand or give out a call, maybe a howl, if you experienced the following over the last few days: discomfort, joy, conflict. Yeah, that's good. Connection. There's no wrong answers, people. Fear, despair, comfort, movement, grief, enlightenment, and emergence. So thank you for taking my survey. Well, we might be sending out a survey. I don't know if we're going to do that, but this is a good start. And I think if you've experienced any of that, then we were successful here today. So thank you for making that happen. Yes, thank you. I wanted to also remind you, in case any of you weren't here early yesterday, that I am Rachel, the non-scientist president of a scientific organization. I'm not here to say anything smart or provide you any well-cited presentation. I'm here to alchemize what we've experienced together and to help solidify some of it. I'm going to just process it for myself here in front of you. So thank you for letting me do that, and letting me do that. And I wanted to acknowledge that for those listening online, or for those who might watch this in the future, that what I'm going to talk about is woven from something that's no longer here. It's woven from the folks who have been on stage over the course of these hours and these days, and the music and the art, which wasn't recorded and isn't available online, but you can certainly go listen to our invited guests and our speakers and hear their words and maybe get a glimpse of what it is exactly that I'm talking about. So I wanted to start by sharing with you some of the unthinkable things I've heard over these days. We live in this context, and Wes talks about us being out of context, and Tim talked about the context of the last 2 years. And there is a sense, and what I often grieve is how unbearable truly it is. So, the unthinkable thoughts. There are only 200 some black farmers in the entire state of Missouri. Our agricultural system maintains barriers to entry for black and indigenous farmers, limiting access to land and the financial tools necessary to build a life on the land and to grow the food that we all need to survive. We put 1 pound of weed killer per person per year on our food. Is that right? Close. He went like this. I'm going to get these all kind of right, so that's the other thing. You're going to have to go back and read the notes. There is glyphosate in the urine of about 80% of Americans and in 75% of our waterways. I'm looking for a nod. Our Palestinian collaborators traverse dozens of hostile checkpoints to reach their research sites. 50% of our topsoil has been lost in the last 100 years. We are disconnected from our food and from the land that we live on. There are many who are not at the table, they're on the menu. Fascism, too many people, birds plunging from the sky in Mexico, the failure of success, being defined and controlled by others, working under a breaking load and dying. And this isn't even including the headlines that we see every day outside of this barn. The International Panel on Climate Change saying that the climate is changing faster than previously projected, communities across the globe being devastated by this change. We exist in an economic and social system that we're built on and now depend on inequality, slavery, and violence. Our food system stands on a most fragile footing. Our political system in the US is stretching to the extremes on both sides, to the point of ripping the very fabric of our democracy in half. And we're in the midst of a sixth extinction event, approaching a lonely planetary future that may or may not include humans. So, it's a lot. This is our context. It could be apocalyptic, or maybe not quite. But it is certainly unbearable and incomprehensible. And so we have this knot. We're in this situation, we want to solve it. Wes says to head things off. We want to head this thing off. Well, what is this thing? And one of the things I was even more depressing recently is that I realized that this thing is this ball of twine that you all made. It is actually quite beautiful, but I can't solve it. There is no solution, there's no one solution. It's complex. The complexity held within just one human, people who have shared so vulnerably with us this weekend, the complexity of spanning 2 fertile crescents, the complexity of being Black and a farmer in the US, the complexity of a Latino poet laureate of and for Kansas, the complexity of a French, Vietnamese, Texan living in Boston, today in Kansas for the first time, the complexity of indigenous persistence through genocide and in some cases extinction, the complexity and delicacy of our food system, and the scale of this ball. The scale that then you take all of those individual personal complexities and you take it times 8 billion. And all of the histories of our culture and society here on the prairie, the violent and unjust histories and the beautiful ones, the wondrous and devastating diversity of our stories and how they collide and emerge and evolve over time. The revolutions, the Renaissance, the Green Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, the Internet, the generations, now each named and with their own culture, the greatest, the silent, boomers, Gen X, millennials, Z, and now Alpha. And the knot is tight. It's guarded fiercely by entrenched and powerful interests who prefer it stay just like it is. We here at the Land Institute have said probably over the last 6 months, more times than there are people in this barn, this phrase: the cascading social and ecological crises of our time. Cascading because this crisis, this intertwined, complex, and impossible crisis, is rolling down, cascading, picking up steam faster than we can take at an alarming pace. And there's no single solution to the puzzle. So, I was grappling with this and trying to figure out what to say to you all today. And there's a man here by the name of Bob Berkebile, and he taught me to change my perspective. So, and there's a great image of Bob on a beach somewhere, literally standing on his head. I'd like to just invite, if you're out on the lawn and you're able enough, you can take this moment to go ahead and stand on your head. Don't do it up here in the front, that'll just be tragic. But if this ball, this knot, and it's all of its complexity, is rolling down a hill at greater and greater speed, what is the problem? What if the problem isn't the fact that it's rolling down? What if down is, oh, there's a handstand, there's a headstand. Would you like to come finish my presentation? Because you probably can do it better than I. So my notes are a mess here. We're just gonna. So what if the problem isn't the down? And what if the problem isn't the entanglement, the complexity? What if the only problem is the speed? What a relief. We don't have to stop it, and we don't even have to push it back up the hill. All we have to do is find the grace and the movement to help it slow down and release the tension and the tightness and the power of the hold that is protecting it. So I'm going to switch metaphors from your beautiful knot. Metaphors are useful, but only for a short period of time. And I'm going to revert back to this, my favorite prairie plant. And you see it here, the feathery top of it. And you can't see what's under it, and maybe that's part of our problem. And so what I imagine now, and Aubrey helped us visualize the root imagery that we use here at the Land Institute. What if this knot and all of its speed becomes more like a root? It grows arms and it starts to crawl, more slowly but still connected, learning all along, learning how to see remnants, to discern the remnants that are necessary. It makes me think of the two things that other people have said. One is Aubrey suggesting that we might consider these roots and their movement, roots with the power to break concrete. And I think also of the olive trees that live and die and persist over centuries. Those are the kind of roots. This is the kind of movement that I imagine in this. So, how do we get there? How do we grow these new roots? Well, Tim gave us the Smill versus Jackson and Jensen bit yesterday, and I'm going to go, because I work with plant breeders and I know what this means, I'm going to go with the hybrid approach, the both and approach, that we have to simultaneously go slowly towards where we're heading and have large bursts of revolution and change. We definitely need to get comfortable with change, get comfortable with grief, and get comfortable with emergence. We're infants in this evolutionary timescale. Despite the narrative we've developed over the last few hundred years, we have not arrived. In fact, the idea of arriving or achieving some ultimate form of happiness, success, achievement, I think is folly. All we can really do is continually change. So if we slow down, slowing down means milling about, finding time to see the cicada, hear the bird that Paul Winter heard that I couldn't remember. The wood thrush, thank you. Hearing the wood thrush, feeling the feathery tips of the prairie grass through your fingers, paying attention to the wonder and knowledge that our bodies are made of stardust. And we need to develop new roots. This beautiful thing that's happening right now, a layering of perspectives and lived experiences, a layering like the laying down of fresh soil on the geological map of our ecosphere. I think we get down gracefully through acts of loosening. Political acts, a signature on a letter, a vote from a congressperson or 75, building knowledge together, raising voices previously unheard. We get down gracefully, also, as I said, through radical thrusts towards the improbable. By having the courage to pursue remnants that cannot be actualized in our lifetime. We get down gracefully through the movement of art and poetry and music, through our difference and bridging across it, by creating a sort of pluralistic culture that allows for ecospheric innovation, which we call emergence. We get there by learning to discern the remnants, to pack our bag for the journey. We only get to take so much with us. And we have to choose carefully what we put in our bag. We have to act decent, stay rested, explore, and challenge. And I think, actually, I know I would go that far, that we can do it. We kind of don't have a choice. The proof that under the trauma of the storm up here, proof that new roots are growing in places where we can't see it. For starters, this, Waskar, Alexia, Stan, Wes, Eric, I'm missing a bunch. Donna, Janella, Ryan, thank you. Keep going, Webb. For starters, all of these people are proof that we can do it. I can also tell you that there is a national and international research community that is working to develop new perennial grain crops and societies to steward and be nourished by them in places including, I will take a deep breath, California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Utah, Wisconsin, and beyond that, Argentina, Australia, Bulgaria, China, Laos, Vietnam, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, Kazakhstan, the Netherlands, Palestine, Russia, Scotland, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Tunisia, Ukraine, Uganda, Mali, the United Kingdom, and I'm sure I missed at least 5. I know this is possible Because right now, there are potential future perennial grain researchers and farmers in the Ukraine listening to this stage. They are doing it while their land is destroyed and occupied in a war that they are fighting for their lives. I know this is possible because of you, because of what we've done over the weekend. I know it's possible because of Leland Lawrence, whose shack you can go visit over yonder, lived on $500 a year, a beautiful, introspective, and thriving life. I know this is possible because of the countless seemingly small acts that occasionally explode into massive change. So, what are we at the Land Institute going to do about all this? Well, we're going to continue to invite, learn, and connect with diverse voices and movements. We're going to persist in our development of perennial grains. We're going to catalyze and support the perennial grains and perennial futures in hubs like the Fertile Crescent that are deeply rooted in their place, resilient to the impacts of our changing context, and connected by an open source, accessible network of knowledge, data, stories, and care. We're going to continue to explore the ecosphere for new clues and new emergence and new ways for these roots to move down quickly and slowly, now and over deep time. So I will end with an invitation. I invite you again, beyond today, to learn to find new clues, to learn to see and discern remnants, to pack your bag, to help your neighbors pack theirs, and to be moved by the remnants. I invite you to continue to dance and to sing. And for those of you who were here last night, again, to howl by the light of the moon. To be moved by the remnants of a prairie fire transferred to pulp. If you've seen the art in the gallery. And to work toward growing your own roots, to gain access to that little human animal inside you. Because it knows the way. And it is sometimes hidden and invisible, just like the roots of this prairie. So good luck with all of that. I'd also like to express gratitude to the speakers over the weekend who brought their vulnerability to this stage, shared their life's work and their visions of the future with us. I'd also like to take a moment and thank those who are not with us. We've lost folks recently at the Land Institute, and this stage has been graced over time with folks who are no longer with us. So for their contributions and involvement and their continued energies, we are forever thankful. Thank you to Emily Ryan and Merrick's Gustafson, who helped coordinate the program and this event. Thank you to the staff who make the work happen every day and inspire me every day and give me the energy to stand up here and for making this event happen. Hi, Amanda. And finally, thank you to you all for being here. Thank you to those online who are listening in your own place, the same goes for you. You can find those roots. They're there. We just have to see them. And I was so moved. I've been so moved by this entire thing. So thank you for that. I was so moved by Waskar. And he has such a essence about him and a way of being that I think it's most appropriate that he get the last word. So I'm going to ask him to come up and close us out.
The only theater I've never done is improv. Okay. My term is ending. The position of the Poet Laureate will have a 4-year term next. I hope you invite them. I hope you invite more art into these conversations, because when we talk through art, when we communicate through art, we're speaking with a bit more grace and beauty than we normally would experience in a conversation. The work I will be doing next will be regionally, at a state level, federally, and at a local art agency, because I think all movements are grassroots movements, and we have to trickle up and not down when it comes to that. So people ask why I do poetry, and I often, especially this past month, has been thinking about a very particular poem, a very short poem, and I like short poems because my memory is horrible. So, and that poem is by Sean Thomas Doherty. It's from the second O in Sorrow, and it's titled, Why Bother? Because right now, there's someone out there with a wound, the exact shape of your words. Thank you.